Welcome to the GameDev.tv Community Podcast. I'm your host KB, and I would like to introduce you to industry professionals and people who successfully made their path to the video game industry. I hope that you will enjoy the podcast and get useful tips that will bring you closer to achieving your dreams. Now, let's get right into the podcast.
So, hi, I'm Laxmi, and I have a game development studio in India called Apar Games. And I've been having this studio for almost 10 years, more than 10 years now. Yeah, that's
Dang, 10 years. It's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
Now, how'd you get started doing game development? You start playing video games? How'd you get started?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a, I wouldn't say funny story, but yeah, there's a story. When I actually got into game development or designing, India did not really know what's happening, and very few studios were, or rather one or two studios in whole of India were doing game development. And I actually was just multimedia visualizer or whatever you call it back then, and accidentally so I was supposed to be creating some interactive experiences for kids, and while doing that I just created game probably or designed a game, and then we didn't know how to program it because whatever the complex behavior that we needed it, and that's when we started figuring it out, how do we program it. And those were the time, this is what I'm talking about, is 2000, where you did not have a great resource on the internet as readily available as it is today. So it was pretty hard time, and then we developed something. It was apparently a music based game, and that's how I just loved the whole experience of creating something that you enjoy playing. And well, I wouldn't say that I had never played game before that. We had when I was in school, so we had the Sega. I don't know if you guys remember the Mega Drive of Sega.
I had a Sega once, yeah.
Yeah, that was 16-bit cartridge, and that was like some $20 a cartridge is what you would get, and that was really a huge amount when we translate to Indian rupees. And so we had like two of those games, and the whole of my the apartment that we were living in, the whole of the building, all the kids used to be in my house, and we all would play that because no one had really seen a 16-bit imagery on TV, So that was like, and I did not know how privileged I was until I saw them like, oh my God, this is how it looks, and like that great. Or others might have some, the smaller video games, which would probably be 2-bit or 8-bit. I'm not sure what they would be. The handheld ones, and this was like a proper console, and we were like suddenly famous in that vicinity. So that was it. But I never thought that, I was in school, so I never thought that, I want to create this one day and all, because it all seemed like a it's like you don't even know that you can get there. And only when I passed my I'm a commercial artist. I'm basically supposedly doing advertising and things like that, but I got into animation after my schooling. So, and that's where this whole game thing happened to me, and that's when I started understanding that this is what the game development is, and this is what it is called. And and that's how probably I got into games. So I actually call myself lucky because I just got into it at the right time.
Oh yeah, that's it's interesting because is there a lot of game studios or game developers in India?
Now, yes.
Yeah.
So India has emerged as one of the top 5 markets. Wow. So yes, I mean, now we have a lot of game studios, but when I started, I think there were very few.
So you got in kind of like the gold rush, like right before it got big. So you reaped all the rewards.
No, in fact, we were the ones who were, had to actually make it happen because we were As it is, game development is extremely difficult when it comes to business, right? Because the rate of failure versus the rate of success is, it's rate of failure is much more higher than the success. And of course, when you're successful, it's the great thing. But when we started, when I started, India wasn't even a gamers market, and not a lot of talent that we would find here. So what we had to do is that I had to actually train people. Then we had to. So predominantly when we started as a game, doing a work for hire for obviously the studios in the West, because I thought that was the best way to learn from the people who already know game development.
No, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that those times were a little harder to set up a company and run it. But now, because you have a lot of, you can connect to anybody anyhow, and an abundance of tools, talent available can be connected to. So that's today it's relatively easier to have a gaming studio than what we did it uh, about whatever 10 years back.
So when you were in school, what were you learning? Like, what was your original plan before you learned about all the game development stuff?
Oh, just get into advertising agency, as a visualizer. That's what the plan was. Um, but the graduating year was the recession period, so there weren't any jobs in advertising. So I thought of doing, some further course in animation and a bit of scripting, things like that. So that I thought maybe I could also get into web development or multimedia development. And that's where I really love the fact of, it's not just that you can make or you can draw a character and make it walk. You can actually make him do stuff on your command. So, the so it's really funny. So what I studied in college was like drawing on the paper, no two-way communication, just one-way communication, right? Then I learned animation, where you see that, oh wow, this is much more advanced than just a print or image of a character. Now here the character walks, talks. And then when I learned that, oh, I can actually make him, via using scripts, I can actually make him do stuff on command. That was like much more cooler. Like, oh wow, now this is like a next level. So I never wanted to go back to that, just print or advertising or publishing sort of career.
It was too boring now. You were like, this is way more exciting and fun. Why would I go back to that?
Correct.
What languages did you practice for scripting?
Back then, I've forgotten, but I think it's Macromedia's. I forgot the names. There was Autoware, and
Okay.
this is like earlier version of JavaScript. Maybe there was Lingo. I'm forgetting it.
Shockwave logo.
Yeah, correct. Shockwave was correct. So I forgot the software in which you would code. That was Macromedia's something. I've forgotten that.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. When did you graduate from college?
Yeah, Macromedia is like the predecessor for Flash.
Correct.
Yeah, Shockwave.
Yeah. 2000 is when I graduated from college.
And so then when did you get the idea to create Apar Games?
That is 2000. So the idea had started in 2006-ish, but however, actually I started the company in 2008, late 2008. So before that, I was working with game studios in India and had lots of fun. And then I in 2008 is when I took that daring step, you would call it, to actually start
Yeah, the
my
leap of
company.
faith.
Yeah, leap of faith. Yeah. So
So what were some of the challenges you had to confront while you were out of school and in these game studios? Was it harder than you expected? What was it
no,
like?
it wasn't. It wasn't really hard, but yes, I mean it would take some time to actually do what you have actually imagine to do. What I mean to say that, so that time you had these QWERTY phones. It wasn't even a smartphone, right? So you had a lot of challenges in the development front, like how do you optimize the images, and then how do you make your character look smooth enough, even if you're working in pixel art, So nowadays the pixel art is being used as a nostalgic feeling, but that time it was really the challenge, because we would fight for every color because the memory of the phones would be low. So those were the to overcome the issue, I would say, is that the availability of the information or the techniques to do these stuff correctly was limited, and those were the sort of challenges to actually figure out, and how do we do, and also meet the deadline was the challenge. That's one. And probably even on the game design front, um, we were not really trained game designers over there back then, so that used to be a challenge when you would design the game and you feel that, oh, this doesn't feel right, or maybe our approach was not correct, and those kind of things. So I would say in game design front and in the technology front, we had a lot of challenges.
That's really interesting because there's a lot of people in India. Okay, so I work in corporate technology, right? There's a lot of people in India that know technology. But yeah, it's a slightly different thing. Did you feel like you had to? You were kind of saying this. Did you feel like you basically had to teach, like, the people that you found that were talented with the skills that you needed, but you had to teach them about, like, the games industry?
Yes, initially, yes. So they were incredibly great artists, incredibly great programmers. However, to mold them into game development, game art was a challenge when I started the company. Uh, Also, they were great game players. I mean, they were the gamers, so they do understand games. But there was
Right.
this challenge of, moving over as to what you imagine and how to deliver. Although you have the skill set, like, okay, if you say that I need to create a game in C# or C++, yes, my guy knows it, very well. But then he would still have a challenge in converting into or giving that finesse in the output.
It's because so much of what we do in video games is simulating and faking and, kind of
Correct.
pretending
to
that we're really making something happen when we're not. We're just manipulating a bunch of numbers.
Absolutely, and what's the right number is, it's again difficult.
Right.
And interestingly, the thing is that the game designing or game programmer has to be a little bit of artist too, if you
Yeah.
think deeply,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
vice versa. That an artist also have to be somewhere have a programmer too.
I've always felt that programming was a creative activity anyway. It's kind of funny that we consider it science because it really is so much art.
Absolutely, I hear you. Yeah.
Now, how did you practice and learn all about game design to feel ready to be like the co-founder of this company?
Oh, well, it's just that I thought that it's been 8 years that I've working in the corporates and creating games. So I just thought that I know it all. I mean, that's what you need to do. But it's only when you actually start the company you understand that, oh, the know it all wasn't really the know it all. Okay.
True. But like, did you like study every day, like certain like game design, 3D modeling, programming, or like put yourself in environments so that you can be ready to like show people like, hey, this is how you're supposed to do it?
Well, okay. So when I was working, I always had. So as I said, I came from a traditional art school, right? Wherever we were taught that this is the way you communicate to the people. So I never forgot what my basics were, what was taught to me. Now here the challenge was that there are now the communication was two-way, right? Where a game is where you communicate something, then the environment is modified. So your environment is again communicating something differently now because user has worked on it. I don't know if you've understood this. So what I mean to say is that imagine that I'm showing a level. So the game is communicating that, oh, this is a jungle, maybe, whatever.
Okay.
And then a player interacts with that jungle and probably it's no more, or there is water. There is no water, let's say, on the scene, and player interacts something, and now there is water on the screen, which means this communication is two-way, and it's changing all the time. So now you have the scene is communicating differently. So so my knowledge about communicating via art, I always wanted to just find out that what do I exactly deliver, and that's what I believe the game design per se would come in. So my earlier ways of learning were that I would play games and try to decode how exactly is this done, or what I think is being done. So in my organization, I had just voluntarily started this where we would take up a game and we would decode the game design, and then people would actually say, oh no, it's like this, or it's not like this, and things like that. And then later I found some of the books. One of my favorite book is the Rav's theory of game design. So then that's when I started reading books and actually understanding what game design is theoretically, and obviously by the side you were working on the games which were giving you some experience. So it was more like a learning on the job sort of experience. And then that's slowly the technology started giving us all these the conventions and the talks that would happen at GDC, and then we would get and see those. Those were the tools of learning for me.
And then, how long do you think you spent, like, watching these interviews, reading these books? Was it like an all-day thing? Was it a couple hours? Was it just part of the job?
No, this was voluntarily. So whenever I feel that I needed some creative, whenever I would feel that, oh, I'm stuck creatively, or something that I've created is not giving me fun or giving anybody in my office fun, then you had to see it, you had to fix it, right? So how do I fix it? So I had to actually pick up something or talk and things like that. So it was sort of a regular thing I would do, like an exercise maybe, to actually read books, the stuff on internet to know more about. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to go to, before we get to Apar Games, I'd like to talk a little bit about Paradox Studios. What were you doing there? You're a game producer, right?
Yeah, so this was yeah, as I said, one of the few gaming studios back then. It is now, after that it got part of Reliance Games, sorry. So there we were working on games based on Indian theme, and also a part of it was working on, so the Indian themed games were the PC games, and then the other division was working on mobile games, which were on the QWERTY phones, not the smartphones. So the Java, and I don't know if you guys remember J2ME technology. So there we were working on a bunch of casual games, which would some were Indianized themed games, some were just games, no theme really, but predominantly casual games.
Okay. Now, if somebody was like starting out and they wanted to be a game producer, what would you tell them to focus on to become that?
Well, I think you should actually work in every department of game development before you actually become producer, because producer needs to know everything, like even if they do not know it in depth, but it actually helps when you know what goes into in every department. So uh, yeah, because producer sort of has dual job. Like you not only have to look at that the schedules are maintained, because that is directly linked with the money that is getting spent into creation of the game. Uh, so you should be able to uh, channelize your team to a specific goal. And since this is a creative uh, uh, product that we are ultimately creating, it's really important that one knows how to actually get everybody's creative energy in place to create or achieve the goal. So it's really important to understand or do it better. It's nice if you've worked as, let's say, artist with a programmer before, or programmer worked in a team before, and then you have become a producer. I think that becomes much more easier to drive, because you understand what goes into it. It's, instead of just becoming the producer where you've never worked uh, actually into any of the departments.
Oh, yeah, that
That's
makes
what I
sense. Because if you don't know the different jobs, the different departments, it becomes harder to delegate what to do. Now,
absolutely.
as a producer, what is your daily activities like? Is it delegating work? Is it planning what's gonna happen? Is it just ensuring that things get done on time? What's that like?
Yeah, so because we used to work in a smaller um, groups, so producers was it wasn't like a multi-tier environment back then, or rather, in a lot of companies now also do not have that. But yeah, this so everything you have to be part of understanding if the game design is correct, coming correctly as per the what is needed, and making sure that you're meeting the deadlines, you're not putting too many man hours into something that you're within the man hours that are allotted for the game, because we would work on the budgets, stringent budgets, you would say. So yeah, to make money, because otherwise the game would not make money, because uh, the India wasn't a market that a great market what it is today.
Hmm. Yeah, if
Uh,
no money, no business.
yeah, so although I was not so much in charge of finances, but then yes, you've been given that you should not be going overboard with the timeline and the man hours that you're putting in. So yeah, so it was handling, making sure that whatever is designed is what is being delivered, and solving anything and everything that comes in between, given even the rifts between programmer and a artist, where the artist says, oh, this has to go, and the programmer says, that cannot go, because I don't have those many colors, and then mitigating those differences was also part of my job. Well, it wasn't in my job description mentioned though, but yeah, it just eventually was my job.
It's usually how it works. You always get these added little hidden job descriptions. You're like, hey, that wasn't there before.
Correct.
Now, I'm curious, how did you handle the production of the game? Like, how did you handle team leadership? Was it hard to keep people like doing their job, the morale up, or were you a master at leadership?
Um, uh, well, I believe that I did keep them motivated what they think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I did my job well. And
I mean, he could have given her a little bit easier question, Kevin. He could have been like, "So, are you awesome, or are you just really awesome?"
Exactly.
I'm the optimist. So yeah, I mean, I think I did my job very well, because yeah, well, I delivered, so that's what it is.
That's all that matters, right? As long as
Yeah.
the product gets out and it's doing pretty well. I think you did a good job.
Yeah.
And
But
so
I think it's very interesting to be in that producership because I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it because then you had you're actually in the middle of two different sides of the people. Like one who's saying that you have to also understand the boss, and you also need to understand the people who are saying, you have to empathize with both the parties, and no one really cares about what you think. It's like, okay, I want to be happy. The other side is saying, okay, look, the product has to go out, and people have to like it, and that's on me again. And even the teammates say that, oh, look, we've really done an awesome job. You better communicate to the bosses that we've done a great job. So like, okay, whatever it is. So, but yeah, it's interesting to be in the middle.
yeah, and it's interesting. So you did a great job. But I'm curious, how did you do that great job? Like, did you have any tactics? Did you have any strategies to make sure that everything was done on time?
Uh, no, I don't really have any tactics. But then, yeah, one thing that it's kind of hard. I really have to think about it.
That's
Um,
fine. Take a minute. Mm.
uh, well, I think it's important that you understanding what every member is trying to say, and trying to give them the bigger picture, but at the same time not. I know it's sounding really hard. So there's no tactic essentially. As I said, that because I had worked in all the different departments, I could easily understand uh, what each member is probably how hard it is for him to contribute to whatever he's contributing to. So for me it was easier to identify that if someone is struggling, like when I say struggling, meaning he's delivered his job, however is constantly being asked to rework. For me, that's struggling. That means there's something amiss, either a communication gap, or what is to be delivered is not understood by the member correctly. So
Okay.
maybe I was kind of, uh, I don't know, maybe I just knew it how to do that. There's no technique. Um, so I was probably being able to understand that what is the problem in why something is not getting delivered the way it should be. And then eventually I had come up with this method of asking WH questions to the problem that we have in front of you, and then you tend to get the answers, or one answer if you're lucky. So if so for an example, if your problem is that game is not fun and we've already put a lot of amount of time into production, and now what do we do? So this is like a big problem which you always get it. And then you start understanding and where what has gone wrong. Is there an issue like game is not being delivered because one person is not working correctly? And if that is your answer, then you go down asking what exactly went wrong over there. Is a skill not mapped, or is the communication is the issue, and things like that. So this is how I had started tracking down onto uh, identifying what the problem could be, and applying the same and not repeating the mistake, which means if this is a problem that we've got in project 1, then when we move on to project 2, I would make sure that the issues that were happening here, like say communication was the issue in the first problem, then I would make sure that that is bang on for the second project. And that's how I probably moved. So there wasn't really, this is like the technique that I just invented for myself. I don't know whether everyone should be doing that. Now you have more tools and softwares to keep track of things that are happening around you. But back then it was only Excel sheet that we were using.
Yeah, that's interesting because I feel like it, I guess, came natural to you, I guess, handling, producing, and managing teams. Do you think that's
Well,
part of
let's
your
be
schooling?
serious. Everybody was using Excel for everything, and they still are.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you do have more project management tools today, which are more agile, and you could. I
Yeah.
think makes more that ease out your job.
Yeah,
But
I
then
mean,
yes,
you've got DevOps, you've got all kinds of project management tools, Gantt charts, and of course, the most commonly used project management tool to date, Excel.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So we've been using Trello also, for project management. You would be
That's
Yeah,
how
there
we
you go.
surprised, but
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
What other software did you use like Notion or Slack or anything?
Today.
Yeah.
So we predominantly use Trello, as I mentioned,
Hmm.
and yes, Slack sometimes. But then I think Trello works because you have an app and then you get the notification. So
Hmm.
it's hardly any. So most of the discussions also happen over Trello because it's more. But yes, I mean it helps us in uh, throughout. I mean, even at the ideation phase up to during the implementation too, and then for bugs tracking, we either use Trello or we use any other bug tracking tool, like Jira or something.
Okay, interesting. So then after Paradox Studios, you went to, is it readdiv.com as a
Yeah,
producer? What
yeah,
was it
that's
like
right.
there? Was it kind of like
Oh,
the same
that
experience or different?
how different, because this was like a Paradox was like a gaming studio that I was in, so the environment was like how a gaming studio environment is, more freedom and not much hierarchy. You could walk up to anybody's cabin, have a brainstorming session and things like that. However, Rediff.com is like it's one of the biggest internet company in India, and they wanted to get into game. They wanted to have a game as a product, and these are the early years of Facebook,
Hmm.
and it was challenging. I was probably the only person from games over there, and we were there were fantastic other people bringing different type of skill sets, like someone you know in product development as a skill set, or um, what do you call it, e-commerce and things like that. So different type of people came together, and we were trying to create a game as a product, and that's where I actually learned what product creation is. As when I say product, I mean to say uh, product development. I hope you understand what I mean to say by product development, meaning using game as a business, maybe, you know, and not before that I was just making game. That was like a one game for me, and here it's like a gaming as a product. So there was a
Mm,
sort
okay.
of a difference between uh, how do you look at gaming as a product, and I think that was very interesting experience that I had, which helped me in my company as well.
So when you say games like as a product and you say early Facebook, you're talking about like games kind of like not Farmville. Is it Farmville and Mafia Wars and all those games on Facebook where it's
Uh,
like,
no, this was like a platform that we were working on, which will have
okay.
multiple games, and they would have social features. They would have multiplayer angle to it, and things like that. So, and when I say early Facebook, what I mean to say is that the social media wasn't known to people in India, and probably they were the early days of Facebook too. The earlier social was not really popular in India, like those Friendster and other the one that Microsoft also had. So it wasn't really famous in India as a social network or being connected socially, and so the platform that we were working on, it wasn't just the game. So I was supposed to be handling the games part of it, because there were supposed to be four games at the launch. So managing this four game development, but also contributing to the overall product, and uh, from the game's perspective, or for the producer's perspective, that, or from the gamer's perspective, that what should this gaming as a product should have? What features should it have? Like, should there be chat? Should there be, leaderboard, obviously, any other features? So I was just part of the team where we would ideate what features you would need. And we had some great people with experience in internet business industry alongside. So that is how the whole product was.
So all of this prepared you for the Apar Games, your own endeavor, because it sounds like you've learned a lot about like product, making it for more of a business type of model, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah. So then let's get into you taking a leap of faith and going on your own. How did that happen? You were tired of working on other people's games?
No, actually, what happened was that then I got married and I had to travel 1 hour to come to my workplace, which was earlier just 15 minutes. And then that was, and I don't know if you guys know about Mumbai traffic and their local trains. They are an experience, that one must have.
Only
It's like,
what we see in the Bollywood movies.
yeah,
Trains, 10 times
yeah,
as many people on them as there should be.
absolutely,
That's
absolutely. And
awful.
that was the scariest part because I never traveled in train until then because all my jobs were just around my house. I was probably the lucky one. And that's when I was starting to think that because I didn't want to sit at home. And that's when I started thinking that should I start something side by side or what do I do? And then my husband actually supported me, saying, "Oh, why don't you try it? This is the time that you try, because the later in life you try it, it's harder it becomes, because then you have much more responsibilities and things like that." So yeah, I just jumped into it without thinking anything, what's going to happen, because I always had the backup plan of going back and starting to work, if this had failed. Uh, so that was the motivation. I would say that Mumbai train gave me the motivation to start my company.
That's wild. It's like one of the most random things, but it that's how it happens. Something small and inconvenience is just like, you know what? I'm gonna make my own studio. Yeah, not going on that train.
Yeah.
So now let's get into the meat of all this. How did you start this studio? Did you just get a couple people and say, "Hey, let's make a game"?
Yeah, I mean, I actually started with just 2 and then 4 people like that. So I took, um, so this, as I said, I was pretty clear that I want to do a work for hire and not create your own product, because I was doing it out of my own pocket or my husband's pocket, you would say. So I wanted to spend as less as possible and try these things out. So yes, I had like 2 people, 2 programmers, and I was thinking that I would chip in as an artist. But then it quickly became difficult, so I had an artist also to help me. And and yeah, I traveled to Casual Connect. That's my first gaming event that I attended outside India, of course. Uh, and that's where I met a lot of people and understood where the entire world is, and what I have actually got into. So it was like suddenly you feel that, oh, you're in the middle of ocean, and you're like, oh my god, I've got so much swimming to do. Okay, fine. So yeah, but that is where I could pitch what we're doing. And then it's really funny. So when a client tells you that, oh, so you have a gaming studio, and then they say, okay, do you have A, B, C, D, Y, Z? And then you think, oh, I only have A and not B, C, D. Then I would go back and build that B, C, D and come back and say, that, oh, now I have A, B, C, D, all of it. Then I say, great. But do you have E also? And they say, not yet, but I'll come back. So that's how actually I started building my company. So it's all need based. Like, you need this, okay, fine. I'll go back. I'll take some time to set that up, and then come back and you set it up. So that's how I actually built my company, I think.
Wow. And did it cost a lot of money, or was it pretty reasonable?
Yeah, of course, everything costs,
Oh
and
yeah, but like,
yeah, and then I've not, I'm not counting the opportunity cost here now. Like,
mm,
how many opportunities I probably must have lost because we were trying to build something, or and if you recall, after 2008, technology just changed drastically in games, right? You had iPhone coming up, disrupting the whole thing. You really suddenly had to be adapting to a newer languages and technology, and then suddenly Unity comes into the picture and things like that. So it was just a roller coaster, and things. So every year of my gaming company was, every day I'm learning something new, or I'm training uh, myself and my people on something new. That is what was happening. And but that was, there were some kind people that gave me my first job, uh, and got me recognition. So it was like, I'm kind of grateful to them to believe in me.
hmm yeah. I mean, from what I've been hearing, it's like nobody else better than you to open up your own studio and manage everyone.
Ah, wow, you just made my day.
Hey, there. That's what I try to do that, you know.
Okay.
Now, was was it difficult at first? Like, did you go through a lot of challenges in the first couple of years making it? Like, I know a little ABCD, but like anything else, like money issues, people not performing well, games not working out. Like, what kind of struggles did you go through?
Yeah, I mean, all of it that you mentioned. Yes, all of it. Because, uh, see, as I said, that I went to Casual Connect and I saw the quality of games that were being developed by even by the smallest studios in, the other part of the world. And you would say, "Oh, I have the same manpower, but then the quality is really a lot better." And I did not know what's it that we had to do. And I wouldn't say that we had in India, you know, you definitely have a lot of talent. It's just that they were not channelized or tuned in to make games, because India started with this whole game thing quite later than the Western world, right? I mean, uh, India was never a games market, so that is why it was really the challenge to get your quality up to any other studio around the world, and how to do that. And I was, most of my time would go into that, that I have to represent my, the, I don't know, it was probably my thing in my mind that, I have to represent India and its quality in the
Wow.
world. I don't know why that was there in my mind, but then that's how it was, and that is what kept me pushing. And although the money wasn't that, so I hate to say this, but yes, I mean, you do find talent much lower rate than if you compare to the Western world. But then, of course, the amount of money that we earn is also lesser in games compared. Uh, so, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't that great amount of money that you would probably imagine, but it's still money, right? And
hmm
so you had to use all those kind of things like, all right, look, I'm not giving you money right now as much as you need, or you as much as you deserve, but you're going to get your name out there in the game, and I'm working on a game which is going to be, on the global space and things like that. So I had to actually motivate my people, saying that, can you please charge me a little less because I'm going to give you recognition. And a lot of people to my, just, they were ready to do that because everyone wanted to make their name, or something in the games. So I know a lot of really good people that I've worked with. They were like, okay, fine, I'm going to charge you as much as I otherwise would have, or because I want to do something in games. So those were some passionate people that I met, or I continue to meet, or rather just get those kind of people only on my in my studio, uh, because I was sort of bootstrapped studio, and that kept me going. I think even today we are bootstrapped, and it's we're doing good.
No, it's awesome to hear. Did you use the we have to represent India to motivate them? Be like, look, I can't pay you all this much money, but we're representing India. Are you gonna come work
Yeah,
for me?
yeah, that's how it does. Absolutely.
Yes. See?
And everyone and I think fortunately either it's my way of talking or I don't know, I'm again taking all the credit me, but then yeah, maybe they all were like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And of course it does. I mean, who gets to um, every programmer wants to contribute to, like, even today you ask anybody, they're like, we want to work on a AAA game. Every programmer has this dream of working on a AAA game, and I was like, oh my god, that costs a lot of money. I'm not actually going to make him work on a AAA. But then I had to tell them, okay, never mind, but you're going to get the credit. And they're like, yay, my name will come out there? I said, yes. And every game of ours had this little credit button, which nobody cares today, but then we used to. Everyone, after releasing the game, they would go click on the credit button and see that, look at that scroll going down and look until they spot their own name. And that was such a great, what do you call it, satisfaction of your job.
Yeah. Recognition. They were like, yes. Look, you see that? That's my name. I'm there.
Yeah.
So it says you have over 100 published titles. That's a lot. That's a.
Yeah, that's because we were working on work for hire. So yeah, I mean they were all there. My clients published titles, but yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Now I'm curious. How has the game consumption been since COVID-19? Has it been up? Has it been down? How has your studio handled that?
Oh, these have been best times. I don't know if you've read any reports around them, but India is actually has. So we've been saying this, that India is a sleeping giant and is going to wake up, and I think COVID suddenly woke that giant up, and we are now having a great gamers market.
Okay,
So
that's
we're like,
awesome.
wow, that's great. Now we have like it has been, I wouldn't say just COVID made it greater. It was always growing, but then because of COVID, everyone was sitting at home, and they had nothing to do but watch OTT. I mean the video platforms or play games. And surprisingly, they all started playing games. And because of COVID, the schools had suddenly become online, and that has made a lot of people, especially the second tier households, to have a better internet, which they never felt the need to. And because they now all have opting for better internet quality, they have become gamers, because that's where you spend most of your time. So games have certainly become accessible, and that is why this whole growth of gamer base has been added during this time, and it will continue to add, because now even our prime minister have announced that he would make he would have better internet connectivity even in the rural areas. And yeah, I mean that's just going to make the scene much bigger.
Wow, that's interesting to hear that like because of all this, that now India's like coming back, striking back, and growing from it, which is good to hear too. That's nice. Now, what do you look for when you hire like a programmer?
Oh, well, the same thing. Do they have a passion to contribute to the game that is going to it's basically the world with competition with the
You're good.
games in the world. So yeah, I mean, it's passion towards their work is what I look for. And unfortunately, I do not find that in a lot of people that I talk today, but I still have to. So somewhere I settle with the skill versus the passion, which earlier times I wouldn't have.
Now, is that just programmers or people in India, or is that everywhere you go?
I think everywhere I found this. I mean, it's just passion is just there. It's not really being the driving force that it used to be. That you talk to people and when they talk about their work, the glint in their eyes that I used to see many years back, that is kind of fading away, I feel, today. And you do find that in some of the people, even today, but not as much as I would see it earlier.
Now, I'm curious, why do you think that is? Is it people are getting, like, I don't know, would say what,
Uh,
nihilistic or like sad that maybe they're working too hard and not really achieving what they wanted to or something?
I don't know. I think everyone probably is thinking from how do I make a quick buck making a
Mm.
game, and I think that's a wrong attitude towards games because then you know then coping up with your failure is more tougher. If you start off with that attitude. If you start with an attitude that I'm going to work on something awesome that I enjoy playing and I want to extend that enjoyment to, people around me, I think that's when you create a great product. And even if you fail in that, then you still can come back because you still motivated to do something more. Because I mean, I know I've been saying this quite often in this our conversation,
Podcast?
is
Yeah.
that yeah, because coping up with failure, especially in gaming, is extremely important for you to keep going, because you are going to put a lot of money, hard, your blood and sweat, and see people dump your game like nothing, and it
Mm.
really breaks you down. But then to come up again, to deliver is that's the hard, um, step. And if you can, you know, cross, you can overcome that. Then no one can stop you. You would definitely deliver a great game and have a great success, for sure, because it's really motivating, especially when you start your company. That's the biggest challenge that you would have, and you have to be stronger, uh, as the owner of the product, because ultimately it's you who people are saying that, oh, your game sucks, and you should be able to deal with that. And that is why I think that if you start with delivering fun as an attitude versus I'm going to make money, you are more likely to make money than otherwise.
Mm. So how do you cope with that failure though? Like how did you go through those moments when people are like your game's not good enough or this is not what we expected it to be?
How? Well, as I said that, okay, I mean, yeah, it was kind of hard, but then you had to, and I'm sounding like a bookish that you have to believe in yourself, but yeah, you really have to believe in yourself and look at that failure uh, as a problem in front of you to solve, and not the end of the road. It's like, uh, when you say, okay, your game sucks, then you have to. So there's one thing that I've always believed, that when you get a feedback, you know you have to understand that there are two type of feedbacks that you get.
Mm-hmm.
One is from and most of the time the people who give you feedback, not necessarily that they give you more constructive feedback. It's just the feedback. So first, point number one is that never get disheartened by the feedback. You have to go deeper and ask more questions to exactly understand what they mean. Like, for an example, when someone says that your game sucks, oh, then I would, if I feel, oh my god, I've lost it. It's just my game sucks. But then
Mm-hmm.
if you ask them more about it, okay, what is it that you did not like in it? Then there would be more specific feedback, like, oh, I could not even control your character. It was like funny. Or someone might say that, oh, your character, oh, I was asking him to do this and it was doing this, or something like that. And then that's when you understand, oh, my controls wasn't fluid. That's it. My game doesn't suck. My controls suck. Things like that. And then you can improve on it, which makes you feel less like a failure than an opportunity to just improve. So it's important to actually do not go by the uh, the words of the feedback, but what exactly the feedback is, so that you can act on it. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. It's
Really? Okay.
no,
I hope.
yeah, because with a lot of the GameDev.tv students, I don't feel a lot of belief in a lot of people's work. Like they'll post it and be like, it's okay. But I'm like, no, it's pretty great. Like what you did is not what most people are doing today. It's like, good job, keep going. Like you got more stuff to do, but as long as you keep learning, keep practicing stuff, it's gonna get even better and better and better, and then eventually you're gonna be where you want to be. But to even think that your first work isn't good enough, it's like come on, like you believe in what you did, like because there's some people who make some amazing stuff that even I was like, oh wow, like that I can't even do that, and they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty crappy. I'm like, no, no, bro, you're doing a great job. Believe in yourself, and that's why I love when you say believe in yourself, because that's as much as cliche as that could be. It's really the belief in yourself that you can go and do things that other people will be like, oh wow, it's impossible. It's like no, just and everything's an obstacle, but it's like as long as you can overcome it, you're good. And it's the obstacles away. There's a book that's out there that's basically like when you think the obstacle is in stopping you, in fact, what that is an opportunity to grow and basically like improvise and come up with something different that's going to be unique and new to move you forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's exactly like the game, right? The obstacles come by, but you learn new skill into the game to overcome the obstacle. It's exactly like that. You just it's the life
Yeah.
story. I know
Look at
it sounds
that.
philosophical, but yeah, it does.
Sometimes you gotta be. Now, what's the day to day like as a CEO? Is it busy? Is it stressful? Or is it fun? Is it like you're passionate about it?
Yeah, it's fun, it's stressful, everything. As I said that, that my thought of representing India
Mm-hmm.
has not left me yet, and it constantly comes haunting me, and I have to. Sometimes I become, I'm quite hard on myself, but then yeah, it's definitely busy because you have to, and you have to. Now it's like, so CEO is like, in a smaller way, producer is also a CEO, but when you're a CEO, you're like much larger role of that producership. So you still have to do all those things, like keep your teammates motivated, also look at the market and where how your company needs to grow and how it needs to grow, and things like that. So you're just basically busy doing everything that you have to, and even if somebody fails, you have failed. So you can point fingers at anybody. You can't say that, oh, I can't make it to the work because I'm sick. That's how it is, because it's your company, and then you basically working towards it no matter what. In fact, that's
Mm-hmm.
a funny story that I remember taking. Uh, yeah, no, it's a funny story. So basically, I was pregnant with my second child, and uh, my due date was much later. So I had planned my vacation. I mean, the holidays, my weekly con calls, and everything accordingly. And I get into early labor, and and I just suddenly supposed to be hospitalized and being operated. And then I realized, oh my God, I did not reschedule that con call that I have today at 7 in the evening or whatever. And he actually take up the call on inside the operation, or
Are
not.
you serious? No way.
Yeah, and telling them that, please, I just have to reschedule this. And I said, look, I know you're calling me now, but I cannot make it for another 8 days or something. You please. I will make sure that after 2 days I will set you up with someone else. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I said, no matter, I also didn't know this is going to happen. So yeah, this happens.
Wow. That you're
That's
one
crazy.
dedicated CEO. I love it.
Oh, as I said, representing India hasn't left me.
I love that too. It's like you put the whole world on your shoulders. You're like, Indians, I
Totally.
got it. I
No one
got
has
you.
given it to me when I just said I'm the
She's
Spider-Man.
got like she's got like the India, football, soccer, thing
It's
going on.
cricket.
Yeah,
It's
and
cricket.
cricket there, of course, but
Yeah, India is cricket. It's synonyms with cricket.
so yeah, exactly. Got to represent the cricket team.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's
I'm sure
funny.
there's somebody on your cricket team who's famous with the last name of Sachin.
Yes, and I am. Oh, okay, that's a different conversation. But yeah, it's yeah,
Andy, yeah.
nice. But right? India has like 29 languages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Goodness. That's insane. 29 languages? You're saying if I learned one, I still wouldn't be able to talk to most people?
Yes.
Why did I
Yeah,
do that?
pretty much. I mean, most of India speaks English. It is one of the official languages, so it's just as easy to just talk to people.
Yeah.
True. This thing we do at GameDev.tv where we do like challenges at the end of lectures. So we would do a challenge for the podcast. Do you have any challenges for the GameDev.tv students? Could be about anything.
Like challenges, as in.
Yeah, like as in like maybe it's kind of hard because you're more of producer and CEO, but it could be like maybe think about.
You mean a
different
game design challenge?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, something for people to do.
Wow. Game design challenge. Think of something that, I don't know, it's just random, but yeah, just coming. How does this sound? Okay, so you have to create something. Either it's a character or it could be a game design theme, or the game design itself, or the core gameplay itself around typography. What I mean by that is basically you have letters, the way they look, that is what the typography is, right? The types or the fonts. So anything that is inspired by typography. It could be, as I said, character, or character may have characteristics inside your game design document. I know it's kind of hard, right?
Yeah, but it's a good challenge.
It's just coming to my mind right now.
I like that. Doing some kind of character animation with typography. Thinking kind of like, I mean, I'm seeing like something like Pixar-ish in my head, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it can be anything. It can be even your world, like your character is jumping on the type, on the fonts or the alphabets, or they are doing something with the alphabet inside your game as a core game mechanic. It can be anything.
That's a great challenge.
Really?
Yeah. So this was an amazing conversation. Learned a lot. I know this can bring a lot of value to the GameDev.tv students, and I'll give props to you for doing all this amazing work and for putting India on your shoulders and carrying it through the game development. What would you say now, like golden age in India? It's
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so thank you for coming on, and we'd like to end it off by handing the mic to you, and just if you want to do any shout outs, any last minute like inspiration or anything else you want to add. And yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. No, nothing. I mean, I would say that, keep your passion going. It just that's what makes who you are and who you would be, and following your dreams and your passion is the hardest thing. And if you're doing it, you are the superhero. So.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. You can find all GameDev.tv courses at courses.gamedev.tv/courses or in the show notes with a 10% discount. Get started with your game development journey today.